What if the food choices we make every day were connected to the ancient laws we were given thousands of years ago? Did Jesus really change the food laws as many believe? Or maybe, is it a misunderstanding that could actually change the way that we eat, think, and live forever? By the end of this video, we will uncover the truth behind these ancient food laws, the foods that shaped Jesus' life, and how they might still hold profound meaning for our health today. In Leviticus 11, you can see that God gives the Israelites a clear set of food laws to follow. Foods were divided into two categories, clean and unclean. So you might ask, why was this? Why did God do this? Was it all about nutrition? When you actually read the text a little bit further, what you realize is that God did this not just for nutrition. It was about holiness, health, and setting the Israelites apart from their neighbors. Clean animals like cows, fish with fins and scales were actually symbols of life, health, and order. Unclean animals like pigs and shellfish often carried diseases, and they were associated with death and decay. So if you look further into these foods, you actually realize that these animals today, they're unclean just by the nature of how they live and the foods that they eat. But these laws weren't just practical, they were also spiritual to connect people closer to God. They reminded the Israelites to live differently and honor God even in the simple act of eating. Fast forward to the New Testament, and this is where the trouble begins. In Mark 7, verse 19, Jesus says, "For it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach, and then out of the body." In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. Many take this as Jesus abolishing food laws. But here's the catch, listen closely. Jesus wasn't talking about food laws. He was addressing the ritual hand washing and the hypocrisy of man-made traditions. Then there's Peter's vision, which some people use to argue that the food laws were abolished. But look closely to the text and put things into a bit more context here. The vision wasn't about food. It was about people. God was teaching Peter to accept Gentiles into the faith. So let's break it down like this. The Bible provides clear examples of clean and unclean foods. So on the list of clean foods, we have land animals, those with split hooves and that chew the cud, like cows, sheep, and goats. Fish, those with fins and scales like salmon, tilapia, and trout. Birds, non-predatory birds like chicken, dove, and quail. Fruits and plants, olives, figs, grapes, and herbs, rosemary, thyme, garlic. Unclean foods, for land animals, you have pigs, camels, rabbits, don't chew the cud or lack split hooves. So these animals don't chew the cud or lack split hooves. Seafood, so we've got shellfish like shrimp, crab and lobster, mussels, oysters, and fish without scales like catfish. Birds, we've got predators like vultures, hawks, and owls, creeping creatures like frogs, snakes, and insects. Well, if you ask me, even today, these guidelines make a lot of sense. Clean foods like fish and vegetables are actually rich in nutrients and they promote longevity. If you're not eating these foods, you're missing out. Unclean foods like pork and shellfish often carry a higher risk of disease. So, is the risk worth it? When you really think about it, these laws were not restrictive. They were protective. They reflect God's care for His people because He wants us to live for a long time. Up to 120. The Bible says that we can live up to 120. If we follow these food laws and these guidelines, I tell you, I believe that maybe the majority of the population could now live up to 120. In today's world, we're moving so far away from these guidelines. So what did Jesus actually eat? Jesus actually followed the food laws. So from the meals that were recorded that we know from the Bible is that Jesus ate bread, fish, olives, figs, wine, simple and nourishing foods. And guess what? These foods actually sustained him throughout his ministry, performing miracles. and sacrifice. They connected him to his faith and God. So the Bible's food laws aren't about restricting anyone. They're about wisdom, health, and honoring God in all things. Go watch this video to find the 7 secrets of health found in the Bible.